Good evening and welcome to the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education regular meeting for Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. This meeting was originally scheduled for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023, but out of an abundance of caution, because of the weather conditions last week, it was postponed to this evening. So we're all happy to see all of you here tonight. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
Would you please call the roll?
Szilagyi.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
Wyman.
Here.
Carlucci. Herzogs.
Here.
Carnes.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce to you three students from Washington Elementary School, Luna Reyes, Carmelo Brown, and Nolan Stuber, who have joined us to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. I think we're missing Luna. We'll wait for just a moment. If you boys want to face the flag over here, we'll just wait for Luna. She should be right back. We don't want to miss her big night here. We'll wait for just a moment. Okay. We've got our three leaders tonight. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have to congratulate you not only for coming tonight, but I think that's one of the best rehearsed pledges we've heard this year. So, first of all, Luna, thank you so much for coming. Pleasure to meet you. This certificate is for you. And next we have Carmelo. Thank you for coming. That certificate is yours. And Nolan, thank you for coming. And
It was my pleasure.
And there's your frame. Well, it could be framed, but there's your certificate. It's important to us that we have students at our meetings because we put students first. That's our guiding principle. And so we always have to remember why we're here and that we make decisions that are in your best interest, also keeping in mind the taxpayers. So but we're happy to have you. So we want to thank your parents for bringing you out tonight. And we understand you might have some other things going on tonight, but you're welcome to stay for as long as you wish. But if you need to leave, that's something we understand. So again, we thank you for coming and representing Washington School so well. And now we're going to hear from your principal about the many wonderful things going on at your school. So thank you again, students.
Hello, and thank you for having me here this evening. In the Oshkosh Area School District, we are working diligently to increase our literacy scores. At Washington Elementary, we are engaging in professional development opportunities, building initiatives, as well as community involvement to not only increase our scores, but to also develop a passion for literacy within our building. In our building, our K-2 teachers are focusing on shared reading, and our 3-5 teachers are focusing on word study. They give common formative assessments each month that allows teachers to determine different strengths and gaps that our students have. This also allows our teachers to be able to use this data to be able to drive their whole group as well as their small group instruction. As a building, we are engaging in a monthly theme that not only creates a passion for reading and learning, but it also is bringing cultural awareness to our staff and also our students. So we began this initiative in January by studying Martin Luther King Jr., and we've continued this studying this month with our Black History Month. Each class voted on an inspirational figure that they wanted to study in their room. And we are going to be continuing this for the rest of the school year by studying about various inspirational women, students with disabilities, and also Asian American Pacific Islanders. So our classrooms are taking the time to read about individuals that they are choosing to study. They're having conversations, and then they're also sharing their findings with the school through the use of posting the activity that they do in their classrooms on our school bulletin board that is located in the front lobby of our school. We are also going to be working to implement Be the Change, and this is an initiative that will include all classroom teachers having a picture book that they will be reading during interactive read aloud time in their classrooms. All books include an author's message that demonstrates students going into the world and creating change. So we are working diligently to plan that, and we are going to be implementing that at the start of next school year. And last, we are also working to engage our community in our literacy goals. We've done this by having the Oshkosh Police Department read books to our kindergarten students, and we are also working with our Propel group to have them read each month with students in our classroom during independent time. So that's a little bit about what is happening at Washington Elementary, and I'm happy that you were able to have me here today to share that with you.
Glad to have
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Thanks for coming, and thanks for bringing those delightful
Oh my
students.
gosh, absolutely.
All right, at this time, we move on to the land acknowledgement. Dr. Davis.
Yes, so our land acknowledgement as we continue in our meeting is, as we gather today, we'd like to acknowledge that in Oshkosh, we are on the ancestral homelands of the Ho-Chunk Nation and Menominee Indian Tribe of Wisconsin, who lived along the western shores of Lake Winnebago, Wisconsin's largest freshwater lake, entirely within its borders. We acknowledge these indigenous sovereign communities who have stewarded this land throughout the generations and pay respect to their elders, past and present. We welcome the duty and opportunity to share stewardship of these lands.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Next, we move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there a board member who would like us to entertain moving anything around in terms of the order of anything on the agenda tonight?
Not me.
In the interest of openness and transparency, I would like to move agenda item number 6 from the consent agenda to be considered as an individual resolution. This is approval of the contractor for the new Menominee Elementary School. Any other changes? If not, then we'll accept the agenda as revised by acclamation. Next, we move on to board and administrative reports, starting with the board president's report. We're starting tonight with retirements. We have 4 veteran teachers whom we are going to be losing at the end of this school year. It's always a bittersweet moment because we have so many good teachers and we'd like to retain them as long as we can, but we certainly understand their interest in moving on to another age and stage of life. So we want to thank Amy Bulow, literacy teacher at Roosevelt Elementary, who's been with the district since 2009. Lisa Segru is currently a literacy teacher at Carl Traeger Middle School, and she's been with the district since 1990. Ralph Thiel is a social studies teacher currently at Carl Traeger Middle School, but I know he's also taught English in the district in his earlier years. He's been with the district since 1996. And finally, James Viles, a Phi-Ed teacher, Carl Traeger Middle, who's been with the district since 1991. We want to wish all of these teachers a long and happy and healthy retirement and thank them for their contributions to the growth and learning of our students throughout their careers. So once again, we thank those individuals who have devoted at least a part of their career with our district. And finally, I'd like to give an update on the Wisconsin Association of School Boards and CESA 6. CESA 6 is engaged with the district in many things. We're going to hear about that a little bit later tonight with one of our workshops. But I also wanted to share with you a publication that they share on a monthly basis. There's one for every board member. We had a workshop prior to this meeting because the board does an annual evaluation of ourselves. We're a learning organization and we think we should be committed and demonstrate our commitment to continuous improvement, and we do that by taking a survey twice a year and evaluating those results. One of those things that we want to make sure we're doing well is communication, and these are just a couple of communication samples from CESA 6 that we might learn from and might choose to incorporate something similar in our own district. And finally, I want to share some information from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Board of Directors meeting held in Madison, February 17th to 18th. We did get an update on the governor's approach to education in his budget address. He is in favor of supporting increases in the reimbursement in special education up to 60% in each of the 2 years, which would be a significant benefit to our district. He's also interested in raising the low revenue ceiling, which is currently $10,000 up to $11,000. And finally, he's looking at freezing enrollment in vouchers in 24-25 school year when the caps come off. He's also looking for additional resources for our English language learners. And the big news coming out of that meeting is the very well-respected Executive Director of the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, Mr. John Ashley, has announced his retirement effective at the end of June 2023. And so the Board of Directors will be in the process shortly of interviewing candidates for that significant role. John's been there for 18 years and literally and figuratively will have large shoes to be filled once he leaves. So we're going to wish him well in retirement too. With that, let's move on to the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you. So we'll start, again, continuing to focus on students and continuing our celebration on Black History Month this month through some spoken words. So we have Maya and Tiara are here. You guys ready? All right, you can come on up to the table. So our students, just to give a little background, our students have been engaged in learning events and programs celebrating the many achievements of African Americans and recognizing their role in shaping U.S. history. We certainly have enjoyed celebrating Black History Month across our schools this month and know that we'll continuing learning throughout the year and how important that is. So we had I had the good fortune to be able to attend the Black History Month celebration at North High School on Friday, and we ran a little bit long, and I know you guys have worked hard on your presentations for spoken word and we're quite able to present those. So we wanted you to have an opportunity tonight to put all that hard work into the universe tonight. So we offer you the opportunity to be able to provide your spoken word pieces tonight. So is there anything you'd like to start with an intro? Or do you just want to get right to it?
I'm Maya. I'm in the 11th grade. I am vice president of the BSU.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Tiara. I'm a 10th grader. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm going to start with mine first. The title of my spoken word is That Black Woman. That Black Woman. Society does not water the flower that is the black woman. The black woman is unlike any other flower, for she grows strong without being nurtured. Her roots are deep, her stem is strong, and her petals grow bright. She is the only flower which can grow under any circumstance. She has weathered the storm of the words from her opposers, that black woman, yet she continues to blossom. She is tough like the thorns of a rose. That black woman, her colors continue to stay bright even on the cloudy nights. That black woman, her roots stay grounded even when they are being tugged. She is the flower that stands out from all flowers. She is the flower that everyone doubts when walking by. She is that flower that people think will not stay alive. That black woman.
That was beautiful.
Okay. Who am I? A child, a black female child, wanting to live but not afraid to die, wanting to make my ancestors proud. Who am I? Hope and faith. Hope to see a better world, fighting for peace and justice. Who am I? Hoping that racism will be a thing of the past, hoping that the world will be better, no more police brutality. Who am I? The new generation that understands why all my brothers and sisters did not have to die. They did not commit any vicious crimes. They were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Who am I? A black girl. Yes, it's true, but don't let the looks fool you. I'm a black girl because I've survived those times. I'm a black girl because I've been told I'm too tough, too rough, and too dark, and to never be enough. to be a color acknowledged at its worst. I am white when it comes to mannerism. I am black when I am a victim of racism. I am a black girl because I was raised in a society that hates me. They hate my color and my confidence, yet preach diversity. I am a masterpiece of creation and a beautiful reality of my ancestors' imagination. Who am I? Just a black female child wanting peace and justice. Who am I? A black, strong female child, and that's who I really am.
Very nice.
Well done. Thank you very much
Thank
for your
you for joining
presentations
us.
and your work
Thank
on
you.
that.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right, continuing on with the superintendent's report. Again, I had mentioned the Black History Month assembly that we had at Oshkosh North on Friday. So classmates Harmony and Sinai were also part of a video and some great examples of incredible leaders that we have at North High School that I got a chance to talk to in the video, and then also were part of the presentation there. It's great to see their passion and impact making a difference across their school community. North's Black History Month program, which, as I mentioned, took place on Friday. It's filled with inspirational messages and talented performance. It's great to see that part of a school-wide presentation, and also want to thank the Black Student Union at North High School for organizing that event. So thank you for the invite and continuing. Also was over at Oshkosh West and had an opportunity to meet with a couple of students over there to talk about their celebration of Black History Month. Again, great to learn with the students and hearing them talk about how they're helping their classmates learn about Black historical figures as well as contemporary issues. One of the students had shared her experiences attending the African Heritage Emerging Student Leaders Institute in Green Bay. Fatou is a senior at West, and she already has plans to pursue a nursing degree at Fox Valley Tech after graduation. That experience was an opportunity for her to explore both college and career opportunities. Students Rowan, Fatou, and Esther were great examples of incredible leaders that we have in our schools who are doing great things every day, and we're able to lift up Black History Month as part of our celebration this month. So I just want to thank you and shout them out. Earlier this month, ELP students participated in a unique STEAM workshop hosted by the Wisconsin Herd. The event featured an inspiring message from Harold Lefty Williams of the Harlem Globetrotters and his family. Students engaged in a hands-on activity led by artist Pat Casso Hunter and DJ Steady Rock. These are nationally recognized entertainers, and students were thrilled to be part of the experience. The workshop was a great way for our students to understand the importance of creativity and innovation, specifically creating some incredibly designed shoes, which students designed and prototyped as part of the experience. Speaking of the Wisconsin Herd, on February 7th, the district was honored to celebrate Black History Month with the Wisconsin Herd. Our very own school board president, Dr. Herzog, and several students represented the district as honorary co-captains. Additionally, a local anonymous company and one of our own alumni, Trevor Kroll, donated 500 tickets to allow students and families to be able to attend this special game for free. We appreciated the opportunity to come together as a community and experience in a unique and impactful celebration of Black History Month. Oshkosh West students recently received the Wisconsin Association of Student Council's Spirit of Excellence Award for Region 3 of Wisconsin. The Spirit of Excellence is a portfolio put together by student council leaders to highlight the activities that their school offers to the entire student body and community. The annual award is only given to 6 Wisconsin schools that demonstrate excellence in leadership development, sportsmanship initiatives, school spirit, and service to school and community. It was an outstanding accomplishment and a testament to the incredible experiences that our students are having here in Oshkosh. We know our students in schools are amazing, and it's great to be able to lift them up as exemplars in the state of Wisconsin. So congratulations to everyone involved in that. Our schools and district recently also celebrated School Bus Driver Appreciation Week. We loved seeing our schools show appreciation for the school bus drivers and thanking the many caring adults that safely move our children to and from school to and from extracurricular activities and sporting events. We also want a special shout out to our partner Cobeson Buses for all that they do for the district. The Oshkosh Recreation Department is proud to be a partner in making the new ice rink at Menominee Park Lagoon possible. The winter attraction continues to be very popular. Our rec department runs the warming building, helping to make this such an enjoyable experience. Students and families at Webster Stanley Elementary recently participated in the Read Your Heart Out event. The annual event celebrated students' cultures and diversity through literature and the arts. It's great to see so many excited students and engaged community members and families taking part of the event and learning from each other. And just a reminder of the COVID-19 plan that we have for the school year is available on our website. And then a list of activities that I've been working through. So I appreciate everybody's willingness to have me out and about and connecting not only at a regional, local level, but also regional and at the national level in the last couple of weeks. So that concludes the Superintendent's Good News Report for tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Next, we move on to District Administrator supplemental reports, beginning with a verbal report from the February 8th, 2023 listening session with Dr. Gundlach.
Good evening, everybody. We had a couple of individuals who spoke at the February 8th listening session. The first individual spoke, was concerned about diversity and ensuring that we have the most qualified individuals doing the jobs that the district may have openings with. The second individual came in and spoke, had some questions about an equity workshop and some data that was presented, wondering why we don't have discrete equity workshops tied to the data, and wondering if there's a difference between staff engagement data disaggregated by school and demographic. If we have the data, why not include it? And if we don't have the data, why not? So those were some good questions that were asked.
Any questions for Dr. Gundlach? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next, we have the 2023-24 school calendar, which is a written report with Dr. Brown and Ms. Conrad.
Good evening, everyone. So as you know, we have a committee of members that come together, including our educators from all levels, our administrators, and our clerical, and some people from the business office as well, so that we are all making sure that we build the best calendar possible. The change this year in the calendar is all staff will have off for Martin Luther King. This is a shift from the past. In the past, it's just been students. This next year, staff will be able to do that, and we were able to do that by taking the in-service day in February and utilizing it for this instead. So that's one of the changes. Did you want to talk about?
And so for this proposed calendar, we have 3 inclement weather days built into the calendar. We achieved this by we're proposing to add 5 minutes to the high school day. There's been some discussion on that as where the 5 minutes would go, etc. Once this is approved, we will work out where that needs to go along with transportation, busing, those types of pieces. But this past school year, we only had 1 instructional day at the high school level that could be absorbed. And so with our late start that we had in December, we're looking at 5 hours that we have in overage. So we've had to go to digital learning days no matter what on inclement weather days because of the high school minutes. We feel like that's a little too close for comfort when it comes to instructional minutes. So that's why the proposal to add 5 additional minutes to get up to 20.65 hours of overage or 3 days. All of the other levels will stay the same, and the number of instructional minutes per level will stay as well. Also within our calendar plan, it lays out what digital learning days look like for inclement weather and when we would have traditional snow days. So that is outlined in the staff report as well. Anything else, Dr. Brown?
Well, I think the one thing, if somebody is listening out there, spring break is always the question about when is that falling, and that's going to be consistent. It's always the last full week in March. So.
Correct.
Any questions? I just need a clarification. I may have misheard something. I thought I heard you say that we will no longer have that Monday professional development day for teachers in February.
Correct.
But I see that on this, I think I see that, oh, it's for the students? The students don't have school that day?
You're talking about in February, on February 19th?
February 19th.
Everybody has school except for 4K and early childhood, because they have twice as many conferences, so they will have they will be in conferences all
okay.
day, but all K through 12 students have a regular scheduled day.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I misread that.
No, that's
I didn't
a
hear
really
it wrong,
good
I misread it,
question.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Anyone else? All right, this will be coming back for a vote for the board moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks. And next, we move on to key performance indicators, which is a written report by Dr. Davis.
All right, thank you. So as you've seen, the report was prepared to give us some perspective on some of the initiatives that the executive team has been working through with Ted Knightsky from CESA 6. This has been an opportunity for us to engage all of our administrative team in some training specifically around staff engagement and the ability to be able to learn continuous improvement tools to help our staff and continue to build our staff engagement throughout the system. So it's really been a beneficial process. It started this summer and wrapped up with our training in January. And as I've gone around and talked to the principals and asked about feedback, it's been not only positive from a training standpoint, but things that they've been able to use with their staffs as they've been moving forward. So that's been pretty neat to hear. One of the things that was a byproduct of that training, the end of that training, is looking at our a proposed continuous improvement plan with key performance indicators. And the idea of that is that it would be an evolution of our current strategic plan into basically a new model for our strategic plan, which would honor the past work that our community and boards and staff have done, but put it in a format that, again, what I would consider would be more consumable and is also more data-driven to be able to bring our results out front in the plan as we're moving forward. I think this is a really important key when we're looking at communicating with our staff internally. Again, I like to think of it from the boardroom to the classroom. How do we make sure that we're identifying what measures are the most important for us as we're moving forward and doing any of our initiatives, and how can staff members at the buildings know that the work that they're doing is contributing at a district level to some key performance indicators that we have. So we have 19 key performance indicators that are outlined on this draft. It's work that we've done with Ted relative to research in districts that he's worked with over the past probably 5 or 6 years to put together similar templates, but we certainly customized it to Oshkosh as we looked at our key performance indicators. And the plan then is to be able to just have an initial discussion tonight, to bring this to a workshop next week, and then for hopeful approval of this plan as a strategic plan as we would move forward on March 29th. What I'll provide for our next level of discussion, if you will, at the workshop is making the distinct connection between what our action steps have been and that we've been working towards in our current strategic plan, and how those will be carried forward in our work moving in these key performance indicators, because we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's really an evolution here of what our monitoring is of our system. Still includes, as you can see, still includes the 10-year facilities plan, still includes the 5-year technology plan, but it is proposed as an annual strategic plan. So historically, our strategic plans here have been 5 years. We're currently in our 2019 to 2024 strategic plan. The proposal for this plan would be that it would be an annual plan, and we would set annual goals based on our key performance indicators. We'd provide celebrations and opportunities for improvement, and we would publish the plan, a new plan, once a year, and we'd time that in probably late January, early February to sync up with our open enrollment period. So it's really would be a new year opportunity for us to, again, celebrate all the things that have gone on in the past calendar year, and then be able to set our goals as we're moving forward. And so that's the cycle of this plan would be on an annual basis. What I'll also provide at our workshop is going to be the schedule of reporting, because I also want to make sure that we honor the policy that we have in our reporting workshops. that we have, and many of the key performance indicators that are outlined in this document are already part of workshop work that we'd be doing that's already scheduled in our policy. So what you'll see for next week's meeting in the workshop is going to be an outline of each key performance indicator, so 1 through 19, which ones fall on the workshops that we currently have scheduled, because those would be times where we'd be able to go into depth in those. And if they're either, some of the KPIs don't fall into a natural workshop, so we'd create a schedule for that specific key performance indicator to have a staff report on, so you'd be able to get some depth and some context to the action steps. And then some of the key performance indicators, like literacy, for example, is currently in 2 workshops a year, but we also want to do some reporting out at mid-year based on our data. So in that case, we'd have 2 workshops for our literacy programming, and then we would have a staff report that would be a mid-year report as we would go. So I'll outline all of that next week as we would go, but there's a robust reporting process that would follow this. But it's really an opportunity for us to create a district dashboard of what we feel our key measures are, to really drive home alignment from what the board feels is the most important things to be measured down to the classroom. So we don't spend time, arguing or negotiating, what's of value to measure or what's not when we're inside of our system. We're really clear about that. And what we talk about and spend our energy on is how do we get that? How do we hit those marks, and how do we make sure that we improve year after year as we're moving forward? So with that, I'll take any questions. Like I said, we'll have some follow-ups at with some more detail for the workshop next week. But just wanted to provide just an initial conversation. I'll also say that the draft, so it's in draft form. The draft that you have now has already been revised, and so when we get to the workshop next week, then you'll have an updated form of that. So.
Any comments or questions?
I think I'll save my comments and questions to next week. Sounds like that's probably the place for it.
Sounds good. I think one thing I would like to suggest, given the report that Dr. Gunlock gave this evening on the February 8th, 2023 listening session, is that what was discussed at that listening session be forwarded to the Education Committee. I think that's in alignment with these KPIs, taking a look at data and making decisions on that. I don't want to lose the content of those items, because I think they need to be addressed further, and I think the Education Committee would be an appropriate place to refer those.
Yeah. So,
Mr. Carnes, that's why I'm looking at you, since you chair that committee.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. All right, so tomorrow night, there's an event at the Culver Center where the community will have an opportunity to be introduced to these KPIs, and accountability will reign tomorrow night at the Culver Center.
Yes, and so we invite the community out to participate in that, and are using that as an opportunity to help cultivate partnerships. So ways that our community can engage across a variety of different key performance indicators that we're looking at. So looking forward to that tomorrow night. So.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Next, we move on to committee chairs who chair various committees and give us an update on what's been going on in those committees.
That's Chris.
Starting with education.
There's one I'm not giving tonight.
All right, so I'm going to read a lot on this one because I think it's just not a way to sum it up. So we met on Thursday, February 2nd. I had 3 agenda items. The first one was on reading recovery. Linda Kuhaupt reported that the reading recovery program longitudinally has had a great impact in the district. Julie Conrad explained that the data has been tracked and the district has been working with Hanover to provide a key findings document with data from 2012, 2013 through 2022. 4 key points in the document included, or 4 key points that were discussed was, number 1, Black, Asian, Hispanic, Latino students, LEP students, economically disadvantaged students, and special education students are more likely to participate in the reading recovery program than their peers. Number 2, Black students were less likely to complete the program than their counterparts. 3, there is considerable overlap in kindergarten Pell's assessment scores between students who enter or do not enter the reading recovery program. And 4, students who participate in reading recovery showed more improvement during their the first grade than similar non-participants. This trend continues for similar participant and non-participant groups in long-term outcomes through grade 7, where participants are still averaging higher scores than non-participants. Recommendations after meeting reassess the process of selecting students for the Reading Recovery Program, provide additional early academic supports to promote equitable opportunities for all student groups to attain grade level proficiency, and conduct a student equity analysis to identify gaps in student outcomes, and for encourage all students who participate in Reading Recovery to complete the program. Dr. Davis stated that family engagement piece will be one area to delve into, find out how the district can help families to have students complete the program. I think we've talked about that. Family engagement is a piece that is important for a few areas. Big agenda number 2 item was development of C3, which is co-plan, co-teach, co-serve. This is part of equity non-negotiable number 5. These teacher-based teams co-plan and co-serve through proactive instructional practices for each learner within their grade. District leadership is working with the school leadership team, who in turn is working with teacher leadership to make sure the district is providing courses and structures, removing barriers, and making sure it is done effectively for all students. Historically, co-teaching, a specialist teaching side by side with the general educator was used, or modifications were made to accommodate all students. Co-planning involves teacher teams discussing student needs and purposefully planning instruction designed to meet the needs of all learners. Co-serving involves specialists serving students through instructional planning with a teacher, small group, and/or co-teaching. Co-learning involves educators learning from each other to develop strategies, tools that meet the needs of all learners. The reason that this came up was due to conversations in the community, and we wanted to talk through that and kind of share feedback that we had heard, to make sure that everyone's voices, especially the teachers who are involved, are heard from areas that we can maybe improve on that. So, and then number 3, we had Partners at Learning Program, or PALS. A program that some of you probably know better than I do, was around for a while and has since maybe not been as involved, and so we're looking for reboots for that, to try to grab new partners, define those roles and responsibilities, and try to move forward with that. So, any questions? That was a lot of talking that I just did there. So,
Thank you, Mr. Kearns.
all right. Next meeting is, I was going to say tomorrow, but this is not Wednesday. It would be on Thursday, March 2nd, at 8 a.m. in the boardroom. Thank you.
Very much.
All right, thank you.
Next, Facilities and Finance Committee, Mr. Wright.
Well, I've got the next 3, so just bear with me. Facilities and Finance Committee met on Thursday, February 16th. We discussed about OEA negotiations. We postponed that until March 16th. We discussed TIF districts because we wanted to get a good feel as to what TIFs might be coming due, to see if that could have a positive impact for the district. And what we've learned was that no big TIFs are coming due in the near future. But down the road, we might have a number of them later on, which would be a good thing. We discussed about the recreation department and the current reservation process, and how that takes place. That discussion was based mostly around how can we make sure that our facilities are being utilized as much as possible, so that kids have as many opportunities as possible to participate in extracurricular activities. Then we discussed the approval of general contractor for Menominee Elementary School. There were 3 bids submitted, and Myron is being recommended because they provided the lowest bid, and we're excited to get that process started here in June. Then we talked about the approval of the contractor for West High School AC. That was a good discussion, especially because I have a lot of teachers contact me about the AC at West. So the good news is is that we are recommending for more of West to get AC. So that's a positive step. Then we had the budget variance report. Recent reconfiguration of our bank accounts has resulted in an interest income of less than $50,000 last year to just over $200,000 this year. The next meeting for facilities is Thursday, that's not right. So that is not the next meeting date.
Maybe March 16th?
I will look on the
March
other,
16th, right?
yes, it's March 16th. Good thing I got multiple copies here. At 7:30 a.m. Facilities is always an early meeting. Should I just go to the next one? Okay.
Go right ahead, you're on a roll.
All right. The legislative committee meeting was held Thursday, February 9th at 8 a.m. We had a follow-up related to the legislative breakfast, which mainly entailed us talking about the upcoming budget process that the state's going to go through and how that could affect the Oshkosh Area School District. And we talked about, we basically talked about what types of dollar figures would be, in the best interest for us to receive as a school district and how that could help us provide and maintain the current services that we're providing. We talked about vouchers. Currently, the district there's $4 million, I believe, right, that goes out in voucher money that's not tracked, that, the district doesn't see. Advocacy around per pupil revenue increase. We talked about that. Special education funding. I think right now the number is special education's funded at about 30%. It's by the state. We've hoped for a long time that number would come up and increase so that the district would subsidize special education wouldn't have to subsidize special education at such a high amount so that we could put more money into different programming. And then we continually work on scheduling legislator meetings to try to form good relationships so that we can push some of those initiatives forward to help the district out. So, okay, if everyone's not sick of listening to me talk, we'll move on to the Policy and Governance Committee meeting minutes. That was held on Thursday, February 7th at 1:30 p.m. We went through Policy 1110 and Administrative Guideline 1110, assessment of district goals were discussed in relation to where the equity non-negotiables should be placed. The committee felt this should be a policy all on its own. So we want to basically create the district's own equity non-negotiable policy rather than trying to fit the equity non-negotiables into a bunch of other different policies, so that it could have its own policy and that we could outline that. We felt that was the best avenue to go. We discussed policy 8500, food service. Minor changes were made to update pronouns and a clarifying statement was added. Policy 6152, student fees, fines, and charges was updated with a statement so fees, fines, and charges are taken care of at each level before the student advances from elementary to middle school and middle school to high school. We talked about that at length because the committee didn't want for fees to affect the student's ability to attend dances and participate in extracurricular activities. So we had a long discussion about that because we want kids to be participating in things and to not be affected by the fact that maybe mom or dad or whoever didn't pay a library fee in middle school. So we had discussion about that. Then we had discussed policy 5341, emergency medical authorization. The policy was updated to reflect process changes for completing emergency information. since the district now does online registration. Policy 5330, administration of medication emergency care. This policy was also updated to add administrative guideline references. However, the committee requested this policy return to the March meeting for more discussion regarding the CBD products referenced in the policy. And we felt that that policy should come back to committee because we know of students in the district that maybe use CBD for behavioral things or whatnot, and we didn't want that necessarily excluded so that they didn't have access to that in case if it would be beneficial to them. The next meeting of this committee is scheduled for March 7th, and I forgot on the last one to give the next committee meeting date for the legislative committee. The legislative committee will meet on March 9th, next Thursday, March 9th. So that is all I have for tonight. And that does help me in preparing for these meetings. However, maybe I'll do 2 committees instead of 3 next year. We'll see.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright. You've been busy. I just wanted to do that report on the policy and governance. There was some talk about having those non-negotiables be administrative guidelines, and our decision was no, they would become a policy. And for those of you who have seen those, it's a list. I think it's 9 non-negotiables, and what we're recommending is that there be a statement added on top, which is actually a statement on equity that comes from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Board of Directors, so that it puts them into some context. And by putting them into policy, they become essentially part of the laws, as it were, of the school district. So we think that's a stronger place to put those, and it shows our commitment to moving forward with those as expectations of all employees. So thank you very much, Mr. Wright, and I look forward to reviewing that policy with a Neola number on it
for sure.
in the short run.
I think we said also that at that point it would go on our website
Yes.
and be visible for anyone.
Yes.
Yeah, I know we thought that'd be the best direction and that it deserves its own policy, so.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you all. Next, we move on to non-agenda related public forum. We did not have anyone sign up for that this evening. However, we do have 5 individuals who have signed up for the agenda related public forum. So we will be calling them forward to the table in the order in which they signed up. Just a reminder that each person is allowed 3 minutes to speak. We ask that you clearly state your name and your full address, as well as the topic you wish to address. If you are acting as a spokesperson for a particular group or of individuals, please indicate the group that you represent. Please state clearly and concisely the matters of concern. Please limit your comments to the 3 minutes. And remember that the use of specific names of district personnel, titles, or identifiable descriptions could lead to legal liability. In such cases, please pursue the district's formal complaint process by contacting the superintendent's office at 920-424-0160 to direct you to the appropriate administrator. So at this time, we will begin with Jennifer Considine.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm speaking to agenda item 10. And I just want to start by saying I'm a parent of a mom of 3 kids who have been through the Oshkosh Area School District. Currently, 2 of them are enrolled. And I'm here to encourage you to pause the approval of the plan for administrative reorganization. And what I'm here to ask you to do is to consider how to reimagine this reorganization with an equity focus. In reviewing the proposed reorganization that's in the board packet tonight, I noticed that there's very little emphasis in the proposed position descriptions on equity. And I've heard a lot of conversation about equity already in this meeting, as we've talked about the equity non-negotiables. I see it in the key performance indicators as well. But when we look at the 12 administrative positions described in this evening's board packet, only 1 is directly tasked with equity work, and that's 1 of about 10 bullets in that position. I think there are 124 bullets in the descriptions of these positions, and only 1 specifically addresses equity. So I believe the district has two opportunities in pausing this to reconsider how to embed a commitment to equity and inclusion in this reorganization. One thing that could be done is to reimagine one of these positions as a diversity coordinator position. There certainly is precedent for this. Fond du Lac has one, Appleton has one, in our own community, UW Oshkosh and Fox Valley Technical College both have such positions. An individual in this position could really champion efforts to address opportunity gaps and to support success for students and staff. Another option, and perhaps both would work, the district could revise these and maybe other positions so that every position in the district has a bullet calling out the need to support the diversities equity work and the priorities on closing the opportunity gap and supporting all students. As I noted, I think these changes would be in alignment with the district's equity non-negotiables and with the continuous improvement plan draft that is also in the board packet tonight. Several of the KPIs specifically call attention to opportunities to narrow the achievement and opportunity gap for students of color. If we look at the district report card KPI, it notices that opportunity. The KPI on math instruction states, narrowing the achievement and opportunity gap for students of color and students with disabilities continues to be a priority for the district. The KPI on out-of-school suspensions notes that the OASD's equity work, as it begins to reduce disproportionately affected various groups of students, it is expected that the district's rate of students receiving one or more out-of-school suspensions will also decline. So it was really striking to me in reading the board packet tonight that about 25% of those KPIs specifically call out opportunity gaps and the need to do equity work, and yet only 1 out of 124 of the administrative bullets call that out. So I would ask you tonight to have a conversation about that and how we might address that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, could you spell your name and state your address?
Yes, Jennifer Considine. I'll wait till this. I hit my minutes exactly.
So sorry.
No worries, Kim. I'm being played off, but before the microphone is gone.
It was turned off on one machine, but not on the computer. My apologies.
Jennifer Considine, Considine, 300 Dale Avenue, Oshkosh. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
That's a legit alarm.
There was an emergency.
You had 3 minutes to get through yours.
Yeah.
Chris was out the door.
Angela Cibulwa.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for coming.
So I'm Angela Cibulwa, 1776 Graver Street.
Can you spell your last name for me?
Yes, Subulwa. And I had emailed earlier, so I think probably folks are aware I'm here to talk about item number 10 as well. I'm here mostly as a parent to have 2 sons in the district that are impacted by a lot of these discussions. And like Jennifer, I'm here to ask you just to push pause on the reorg and to have some maybe wider conversations and pause on the one that you're being presented tonight. In conversations and listening sessions and other spaces, there's this constant refrain about your equity work being everywhere, but it's really hard to see when one reads this particular plan and the way that it's framed. And I feel like it's a missed opportunity to more seriously sort of engage with the very real racial inequities in the district, and that it doesn't take the opportunity that there's space to do here to center some of that equity conversation in really explicit ways, right? So, and as Jennifer mentioned, you know, the language and the framing of all of those responsibilities doesn't really land explicitly those responsibilities, but for one position and one part of what is a really long, I was tired thinking about the person doing all those bullets in that one list. So to actually prioritize the equity work that needs to be done requires an investment, and it seems from that plan there seems to be room for investment and that there's a new position on the table. And so what I'd ask in that pause is to think about a full-time DEI professional in administration instead of relegating the work to sort of side gigs of a bunch of different people, or really a side gig of one person who may or may not have any kind of expertise or training in the work. As a mom of kids who have encountered and been harmed in this district by racism, this is
work that, like, I am tired of coming and talking about. I'm asking you to really reflect on what you're willing to ask of my kids. How much time should they wait? How many things should they encounter, obstacles should they sort of sit and wait for the grown-ups in the space to do them better, right? I have a lot of hesitation about how long they've been asked to endure and what they've been asked to endure, and so what I'd like you to do is read this plan and think about how you would explain to them where in that plan they are visible, where in that plan the harms they've experienced there's concrete evidence that they'll be made right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have Moshe Sabola.
Good evening once again. My name is Moshe Sabola. I live at 1776 Graber Street, and I have 2 sons in the district. As I emailed you last week, I'm here tonight to ask you not to approve the Central Administration Reorganization Plan as it is presented tonight. While I understand that those who do not share my lived experience, do not or that of my children, may not see the importance of such work, myself and other parents of black and brown students go through in the district. Sorry for that. In the district, there need to be accountability regarding this work. Fewer assertion that your equity work is in everywhere, with the implication that we must just be too dumb to see it, and it's in a larger commitment to listen or better. If you have new resources, as this plan suggests, please fund a DEI professional at an administrative level and explicitly tie it to equity work each and every administrative role. Naitumen, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
for coming. Next, we have Molly Smiltnik.
I'm a debater from high school, so you all know I speak too long all the time anyway, and fast. Anyways, Molly Smiltnik, 1855 Hickory Lane, Smiltneek. I'm here tonight as an advocate and an ally. I'm here tonight on behalf of myself and my husband. Those of you who received the message from Eric last week may appreciate that he's busy taking Gus to his reading lesson in Appleton and coaching youth hockey tonight. In the spirit of Eric's message to you, I'm here to encourage you to help others, but at least to not hurt them. I'm here tonight to ask you to pause the reorganization of the central administration leadership. With the upcoming retirements, you and the administration have an opportunity to not only redistribute job duties, but you have an opportunity to reprioritize and demonstrate dedication to better serving all Oshkosh students, to helping all Oshkosh students. You have the opportunity to prioritize racial justice and racial equity. And if you pass this proposed reorganization, you will have missed that opportunity. You will be hurting students. The district insists that its equity work is in everything, everywhere. I get that concept. I do. I'm an immigration lawyer and a civil rights advocate. Equity and justice are in the center of my life. It informs many of my decisions and actions. But I'm not held accountable for it in my job. It is aspirational. I'm not a DEI professional. I don't have formal training and lived life experience needed to lead an organization to live its non-negotiables. My job will not be at risk if I fail to act equitably. I will still be doing good, even if I could be doing better. That is why it matters that the word equity is only mentioned once in one of the proposed or reorganized central admin job descriptions, one bullet point among hundreds of others. Apparently, equity is so infused that it is rendered invisible, meaning no one in the district is held accountable to center equity in anything they do. You are counting on goodwill and good intentions, and you know how the saying goes about the road to hell being paved with good intentions. I'm asking you to pause this reorganization. Don't be a rubber stamp. We can be better. I'm asking you to include a position that clearly is a DEI professional within district leadership. I'm asking you to truly and explicitly infuse equity into all job descriptions and job duties. I'm asking you once again to sincerely engage the community about how the central administration can best meet the needs of their students and schools.
I'm asking you to explicitly prioritize racial justice work. In this process, some of the finest administrative minds have worked hard to develop conditions that work for them, but they neglected to ask for meaningful student, staff, and parent input. Does this proposal meet the needs of students, the parents, and the voters? If you're not sure about that answer, just ask the leaders of real Oshkosh. Don't simply rubber stamp what you have been told is the right way. Ask the tough questions to make sure the decisions you make help others, or at least do not hurt them more. That is how you turn good intentions into actions. As a board, you have to ask yourself, do you desire to be engaged in actions and decisions, or do you prefer to provide cover for the district on important issues, to be cheerleaders on initiatives, and to rubber stamp whatever is brought in front of you? Here, thanks to Eric, of course, is a prop for you, a stamp to use if you unfortunately choose the route that Eric and I anticipate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Van Auken.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
Paul Van Auken, 1125 Merritt Avenue, V-A-N, space capital A-U-K-E-N. I do not have much to add because I got here a little late unintentionally, and very eloquent people went before me who kind of laid out many of the things that I would second, I guess is the best way to put it. I might just add a couple other notes about what it means to be facing challenges with a student who's a black student in the district when there is an absence of commitment to the level of having a diversity coordinator, equity coordinator, DEI professional. Some positive things have come from a number of interactions that we've had with administrators since our daughter has been in public schools here at Webster and at North. But there isn't a go-to person when things like this come up, and that's a problem because it takes even more time, and it causes things to feel on this side of the table like they're not transparent. We don't understand what's happening, and the good things that come when someone in a privileged position like mine. I'm a college professor that understands the language and issues, and I can go talk to people in a way that's comfortable for me, and feel confident that if I really speak my mind, I'm not going to face consequences for that. That's not true for a lot of people in the district. So my experience is different than a lot of people have, and if we had a dedicated person whose job it was to deal with conflicts and to take leadership on the positive things that emerge when you start having conversations, things could be a lot smoother, and I think we could have a lot more people feeling confident that people are looking out for their interests and will listen to them when they come to speak. I think the intentions in the district seem to be good, but we need more concrete structures and actions, and it's a little bit sad to me to compare what's happening in other cities in the valley to what we're doing here. As Jennifer mentioned, and most of you are probably already aware of this, other schools like Neenah, for example, doesn't strike me as necessarily a place that is more progressive, but it has a DEI coordinator and a department that is focused on it. And Fond du Lac, the same thing. And there are other schools. We're the only one that doesn't have a department or an office dedicated to equity of the comparable schools that I looked at, from Fond du Lac, Neenah, Menasha, Appleton, Green Bay. That's not a reason to do it necessarily, but it seems like we're out of step with what other entities are doing, other educational institutions, including, as Jennifer said, UWO and Fox Valley Tech, but also peer schools that we should be pretty similar to. So I urge you to vote no tonight and encourage conversations and a reorganization that puts equity in the center, just like everyone that spoke before me has already urged you to do. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much for coming. Okay, with that, we will move on to the consent resolution agenda. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background material on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. The board will consider approval of 1 minutes of the January 25th, 2023 regular board meeting, 2 minutes of February 8th, 2023 regular board meeting, 3 bills payable, 4 personnel, regular appointments, temporary appointments, resignations and salaries, and retirements. 5, reclassification for student information services position. Number 7, contractor for Oshkosh West High School air conditioning project. Number 8, contractor for Oshkosh North High School roof project. Updates to policies. Policy 8500, food service. Policy 6152, student fees, fines, and charges. Policy 6152.01, waiver of school fees or fines. Policy 5341, emergency medical authorization. Policy 8442, reporting of accidents. Policy 8452, automated external defibrillators or AEDs. Policy 8453, direct contact communicable diseases. And Policy 8453.01, control of bloodborne pathogens.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Was that Carnes or was that Wright that seconded it?
Right.
It was me.
Wright.
Yep.
Wyman.
Yes. Aye.
Herzog.
I'm an aye.
Aye.
Carnes.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Salaji.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Thank you very much. Then we will move on to resolution number 6. Be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve Myron Construction as the general contractor for construction of the new Menominee Elementary School as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So move.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Nehans, would you like to join us at the table and share any salient points regarding this contract? Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. So we had the RFP and the bidding process for the elementary school, and Myron came in. We had a good turnout. We had several good bids, and it was really close between Myron and another vendor. And Myron had the lowest bid, and we were the most comfortable with them continuing on as another project, general contractor. Are there any questions on the bid or the RFP?
So this, again, was part of the 2020 referendum
Correct.
project, okay. And did the bids come in about where you expected at this point?
They were close. They were a little bit higher than what we were hoping for, but nothing that we were going to be alarmed with. We have some other contingencies that we are pretty confident that we will be within budget.
Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments?
I'll just comment. I'm pleased to hear that Myron was chosen. I know that they have dedicated a space for DEI efforts, and I think especially with Menominee School and our intention to be really culturally respectful and be conscious in our choices, I think Myron will be a really excellent partner in creating that intention.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Wyman.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Carnes.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Salaji.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Resolution carries.
Thank you. Moving on then to the 2 individually considered resolutions that were printed on the agenda. Number 10, approval of the organizational chart and corresponding job titles. The resolution reads, be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve changes to the organizational chart beginning July 1, 2023, along with the accompanying changes to the corresponding job titles as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second. Discussion.
Yeah, so
Mr. Davis, or Dr. Davis, excuse me.
So Again, the reorganization was really put into play with the retirement of Dr. Jones and Dr. Gunlock. And so this is an opportunity for us to look at our organization. The premise behind this is to be able to help be stronger supporting our schools as we're looking for our supervision of our secondary schools and elementary schools. And as you can see on the org chart, we have kind of an operations side and a instructional side. You'll see that there was really a transition of current positions to new positions as we're moving forward. The exception of that being the Director of Technology position, which is the next resolution to be able to create that position. We currently have that housed under the Deputy Superintendent's role, which is a very unique situation, especially for a district of our size. We have Dr. Gunlock, who has a specific skill set in that, and we've been very fortunate over the last decade to have his leadership, but believe with this transition, we'll likely need to be able to create that Director of Technology position. So that's a separate resolution from this entire org chart, but wanted to just, I guess, first of all, just set the course for kind of the why behind this, and looking at what those boxes would be and why that transition. To the conversation related to the proposal for the DEI coordinator position. So we had a lot of conversations. That was part of our conversations along with some other positions that we would look at in this reorganization. Our team's consideration was to take a look at how we make sure that our equity efforts move forward. In the original plan that we had, that was part of the original board packet, organizational chart, we did have equity just as one bullet point, as kind of an umbrella of a primary provider, if you will, knowing that it's also baked into everything that we do for all of our responsibilities. I have provided for you tonight an upgrade based on feedback that we'd received from the community and the conversation that Dr. Herzog and I had related to the assignment details to better outline specifically how our equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion work would play itself out as bullet points under each one of these boxes and responsibilities. So again, these are still high-level bullet points, but we want to make sure that we're responsive to what our community is asking for and make sure we're including that as part of our descriptions as we're moving forward. So there's a lot of details that would go under that, but I just wanted to acknowledge that as part of our conversation tonight, and as we would move forward. I guess I would ask for maybe an amendment to the resolution based on the original materials to make sure that these equity bullets are included as underneath those assignment details, and those will be translated then into our job descriptions for these new positions to make sure that we do have that equity reflection for all of our positions as we're moving forward. So with that, I don't know if there's questions or other details that you'd like in the context of it.
I'm just going to say, I think it's critical that this is an area that we continue to address. We have some wonderful community members here, and I think they speak for many others in the community. And to be the school district that we want to be on so many levels, we need to ensure that all of our students are excelling and can become a whole student. So it's just critical that this is ingrained in every one of the job descriptions we have, and that it flows down to all of our teachers and all of our support staff.
Mr. Kearns.
Let me ask the question straight out. So what is the benefit of mixing it into everyone's responsibility versus hiring one person to do that? I say that for the public's benefit because we've all heard you had that conversation during some of our meetings, but what is that? What is, in your opinion, the difference between those two models?
Yeah, it's the reinforcement that equity is all of our responsibilities and that we all have to grow from where we are in continuing our anti-bias training and checking ourselves from our experiences and making sure that we're delivering the most equitable opportunities for all of our students. no matter what their background is. So we're making sure that it's all of our responsibilities through, in this case, looking at our executive team, to make sure we can think about our allocation of resources, our hiring of diverse staff, our curriculum development, our assessment tools, all of those things need to be done with an equity lens, and that's not one person's responsibility. So sometimes there's concerns in situations where you do have one person as a DEI coordinator, that anytime anything comes up related to equity, it's that person's responsibility to be able to address it, and that becomes sometimes an excuse for not everybody to grow. And so, again, and that's not saying that happens everywhere, but that's part of the downside, I would say, in some organizational structures. So at this time, I think it's best for us to be able to continue to grow our knowledge base and our resources across all of our positions. We're going to be really active in our recruitment of diverse candidates in our open positions. This plan calls for 4 open positions within the cabinet. I've already started to begin my phone calling tree, and I encourage anybody to be able to get out and use their networks, their professional networks, to create the most competitive, diverse pools that we can get, because that's where it needs to start. We really need to make sure from a recruitment standpoint we can continue to do that work. So that's where that was part of our conversation as we developed this plan.
Let me just, I appreciate that explanation. I think it's important to say that this is, that everybody here understands the importance, and looking at our community members who as well were here and have reached out to us. It was an important part of the interview process when we hired you. Mm-hmm. And that was one of our key points. So in some sense, I look at this and love your ability to want this to be in everywhere and everything, because that is one of the reasons why you are here in front of us today. And so from that standpoint, I think it's important that it's not being ignored if it's not put in one position. It's not like a certain state right now trying to just get rid of DEI work completely. That's not the point of this. It is in everything, it's embedded in everything. And it's stuff that we talk about at every committee meeting, at least the ones I've been to, with the education committee and everything else. So I think that's important to just clarify that part. At least those are my thoughts. So.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And we'll also reinforce at the workshop next week with our key performance indicators. That'll be, deeply involved as part of our monitoring as we're moving forward with regular reports and making sure that we continue to look at our subgroups that are not performing as well and not having those supports. What system supports can we provide that we haven't provided in the past? What resources and partnerships can we take advantage of to make sure that we're supporting all of our students as we're moving forward?
Anyone else? Mrs. Solange?
Yeah, I don't know if there will. I was kind of quick there if there's anyone else. Because I just wanted to agree with Christopher that when we hired you, that was one of the reasons you stood out with your experience and your background and your doctoral program and just the knowledge that you have, that I felt like you could help us make some progress on this equity work. I also really want to thank the community members who've come up, and I want to thank you for listening to them in their emails and adding equity, because that's what we've heard all along, is that equity is embedded in each of these positions. So I'm really grateful to see that bullet point on every single position. I just want to reiterate how important I think it is that equity is embedded in every position in the school district, from our cafeteria workers up to the central office staff, to our teachers, to our aides, to our secretaries, just every position that we have in this school district. Because when we hear a community member say that they have kids who've been harmed by racism, and what are we willing to ask of those kids as they wait for the grown-ups in our school district to do better, that was so powerful, and I felt like I needed to, I probably didn't word it exactly right, so I apologize for that, but I felt like that needed to be repeated, that this is the reason community members and us board members are asking for equity to be embedded everywhere in our school district, because we have students in our schools who are being harmed by racism, by comments that are, that some of us may not even identify as racism because they're microaggressions, and we need to make sure that the teachers in our classroom spaces know how to identify those and help students feel safe so they can learn. Which brought me to a thought I had after another comment that Mr. Von Auken made, and I didn't write that down perfectly either, but the question I had from his comments is, he talked about a go-to person, that's right, that there needs to be a go-to person with some of the experiences that he's had. So is it possible that maybe in each building or here at central office, there could be a go-to person that when microaggressions occur or, you know, a student's not feeling safe because of some racism that they're experiencing at school, can they have an identified go-to person that they, and sometimes I know like at the university system they want to file that anonymously. So is there a way maybe to file anonymously something that's happened in the hopes that it would be addressed?
Yeah, we have our harassment, referral process and making that more transparent. That's something we can make more accessible maybe to students as we're moving forward. In many of our schools, we do have go-to people. We have student advocate positions that we have, and many of our students identify with a trusted adult. That's one of the questions that we ask our staff or ask our students is, do they have a trusted adult? Now, again, depending on the situation, sometimes I have a trusted adult, but I don't want to talk to them about this particular piece. So I think as part of our emphasis in diversifying our staff is to make sure that we can have staff that are representative of our students, right? And so we have more, in this case, racial diversity related to microaggressions or some of the experiences our students are having, to be able to build those relationships as we go. So that would be incorporated into some of the positions that we currently have open. Again, we're recruiting teachers and paraprofessionals and support staff on a regular basis. So it's not necessarily a shortage of positions. It's just really making sure we can cast our net wide to be able to recruit and then retain a diverse staff as we move forward. But being more definitive, based on your feedback, Mr. Van Auken's feedback, being more definitive about like who is a person that you could talk to about some of these issues would be something we can review with the principals. I know that's set up in many cases, and sometimes that's set up and students aren't comfortable still talking to somebody, and so we just need to continue to make sure we're also leaning into those relationships and partnerships with the student and with parents to make sure that when if those situations come up, that we can make sure that they're addressed immediately. A lot of the investment that we're making in our anti-bias training, along with our restorative justice practices, is also our investment into this equity work. Like that's making sure that we're restoring those relationships as they come up, as we're moving forward, and just continuing to learn and grow as we move.
Mrs. Lee.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Davis, for your thorough explanations and for updating the job descriptions to include equity as part of each description. You had mentioned your concern around having one position and sometimes all of the work kind of falling under that. I have witnessed that as well, but I also caution that it's not an either or. I wonder if we can embed equity into every position from, as Liz also had mentioned, and also carve out a position that would be the go-to person, or that even symbolically, I think that could do a lot for our community. And thank you so much to our community members who showed up today and spoke. And I know that they're representing many others who feel this way. I think the carving out of a position shows a substantive dedication and also accountability and follow through with what our community and is asking for, as well as a commitment from our district to really prioritize equity work. I think that's all I will say for now. But I would say that my recommendation would be to pause the approval for tonight and further discuss this. Thank you.
Mr. Carnes, you look like
I do.
say
Yeah, I didn't know if
something.
anybody else has anything more to say to it, but I do. Why don't you go ahead and circle back to me?
Sure. Honestly, I think, the more I learn, about equity issues, and the better I try to get at being useful and helpful to the district and all students within this role. We continually find, I guess, through policy and different things, different types of equity issues where kids aren't getting, as fair a shake as they should for whatever reason, and I think in this reorg in particular, we have it embedded in every job. I think the pause is who is the go-to and who has, would any one individual have enough knowledge or, experience with these types of issues to be the person to make sure that we're not overlooking or missing different things, and that's my thoughts right now, after, just continually learning and working through different things, is we can have it in every position, but having all those and having the equity work in all those different positions, does that give any one person, enough knowledge and ability to really do the work that I guess a dedicated person could do? That's I guess it's a question too,
Well, again, it depends on the development, and it depends on who you get in these spaces. Again, as we're actively recruiting diverse candidates for these assistant superintendent positions, it's very possible that we could get a highly qualified, diverse candidate that would be able to have a level of expertise, right? So it's an open, we have, again, 4 open positions. I would say the assistant superintendent of instruction or the assistant superintendent of operations are 2 positions, that would have, significant authority within the system to be able to influence equity and be able to build that capacity. Again, it's all of our responsibilities. We have to be able to strengthen all of our capacities as we're moving forward, because one person can't also be in every place. We've got 9,200 kids in motion on any given day. So, the idea that one person can help strengthen, and be a person to go to, if you will, but that person is not going to be able to be at 5 places at one time, as needed. And the equity issues, when we're thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're thinking of a broad range of definition of, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so there would be a lot of needs, right, as we would look at that. So again, my recommendation coming off of the reorganization is to be able to have the proposal as it's revised as we move forward. It's up to the board, really, as far as, the positions. It has to be approved by you. Also doesn't mean that we wouldn't look at this type of position in the future as we would move forward. Doesn't rule out that it's a bad idea. Just, again, the proposal is at this time, the recommendation is to be able to, have the reorganization as moving into these positions, from our current titles to these positions, and then be able to integrate it into the job descriptions.
Mr. Carnes, excuse me, Mr. Carnes.
So let me, just a couple things regarding our equity work. Tonight we had heard that we were moving the non-negotiables into a separate policy, right? So the importance of doing it and not just saying it. You brought up an idea regarding the harassment policy, harassment and how people can, I would maybe recommend that you talked about some ideas. Maybe that's a perfect thing to take back to our diversity committee and allow them to talk through solutions, and then that, we have a diversity committee that reports, or, what's the right word? Kind of sends things that they want to see to the appropriate committees. So there's a voice directly to our committees for us to be able to handle situations like this. Maybe there's ways that we can work around. You had talked about something else with, and Dr. Simpson said it on Friday at the Black History Month celebration at Oshkosh North, that the representation in the leadership and teachers and up doesn't match the demographic of our students. So from that, I think you're talking about, we have some open positions. It would be nice to be able to fix some of that, or start.
Yeah, and we need everybody's help with that. Like cast as far into all of your personal networks to get people to Oshkosh. It's a great place to work on contemporary issues, and it's a small enough place to make a difference. Like, we can do that. So that's my not so shameless plug for these positions and the importance for us to be able to diversify as we're moving forward.
So saying that, has this been shared with the community yet? The revised one that we're looking at tonight with the highlighted copy?
Nope, just coming to you.
So then my recommendation is, I don't dislike the idea of trying to bullet point that into a position for a contact person. That one I'm still kind of bouncing around in my head. But I would at least like to say I'm making a motion to postpone this vote until next week so that this version can be into the community so they can see it, and we're not voting on something that they haven't seen yet. So that would be I'm making a motion to put this out to the public and then bring this back to the table next Wednesday. Is that the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be the next meeting.
Wednesday, March 8th.
So that is my motion.
Okay, so,
Right?
So I
Get
think
out
it
our
would be,
sheets.
because we have a current resolution set,
Okay.
right?
Do we have to vote on
So this would be an
it?
amendment then? So you're looking to amend the...
He's looking to
Well,
table.
he's looking to
Table.
table
Table.
it.
He's
Yeah.
making a motion to
Okay.
table.
So we would need a second for that.
I'll second that.
Can we
Trying to find
continue
this on
talking
Now we can talk about
about
that.
it
Yeah.
before we table it completely, right?
I don't have the answer here.
Right, do we need
I'm
to,
looking for.
Well, now we can talk about the motion
Yes,
on
I
the,
took
on the, right?
because we're not going to vote on the motion to table it yet. But do we have to vote? No, because I'm still discussing whether or not. Can I just ask you to make that motion here in a minute? Because I have some questions about that.
Well, I'm thinking about when we did Val Phillips and we were then able to continue the conversation anyway.
Yeah, but
So I don't
this
know
is-
why we wouldn't be able to
This is
continue.
different, because if you table it, then we're not going to vote on it. We're,
All right, if you look on your parliamentary guide, I think the one that would fit here is number 11. Basically, kill the main motion. I move that the motion be postponed indefinitely. In your case, you're asking it be postponed, I believe, until you said next Wednesday.
Yep.
And that would need a second, and yes, it's up for debate, but it cannot be amended. So if that's the motion, I think that's the one that would fit that. Or tabled, I don't see tabled anywhere in here unless somebody.
there's to take matter from table. That's number 34, but then there's no debate, and it's different from asking that it be revisited. Yeah, so I think you're right, Barb, that it would have to be kill main motion, and then in the future agenda items, we'd have to request that this come back next week. It'd be kind of like two
Or whatever
parts.
the timeframe is, right.
So I need to pull my motion? 'Cause
No,
the
I don't
motion-
think so. You
You
can.
just need to formally make it
You
as.
made it, I seconded it.
So
Only
I,
question.
how do I need to word it?
I don't know.
You move that the motion be
You say.
postponed.
I
to-
move that the individually considered resolution number 10 be postponed to next week's meeting, March 8th, so that this new org chart can be shared with the public and we can vote on it at that time.
The new details, yeah.
The new details.
Yeah, the assignment details.
So we have a motion and do we have a second for that?
Yeah,
one?
I second it.
Okay, so now we can have discussion or debate.
Yeah, so my question I wanted to ask, I'm guessing part of why we want to get this done is because you're going to post these positions pretty soon?
Yeah, we want to post these positions ASAP. So,
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, but, you know, we certainly, you know, would need board approval. And there's other option, you know, I mean, you could approve these positions and then come back for further discussion about a DEI, you know, coordinator, if that's the board's wish, or, I mean, there's a lot of ways to be able to move forward.
I just don't like the idea of approving it when this hasn't been shared with the
Yeah.
public yet. And so that's my main point here, is
Yeah.
that I just think, and being that's only 1 week from now.
Sure.
I just think that that
So,
that doesn't feel good.
And I don't disagree with that. What I want to make sure we're not doing is losing an opportunity to recruit our number 2 and 3 positions. And so far I've heard, I don't know that any of us have anything against the new names of our 2 retirees' positions. In fact, I think it's really smart to separate them as 2 assistant superintendents, one over operations and one over instruction. So this adds another layer of what we're voting on, but I'm wondering, Dr. Davis, if you'd prefer that we approve those 2 tonight so that you can post them before next week, or if you're comfortable with the motion just to move the whole thing.
It's up to the board.
It's the board's decision.
Certainly, I don't think a week, you know, is a death blow to our recruitment efforts. I mean, every week does count, yes,
Yeah.
but I think we can recover from a week if we want to just have it be, you know, fully, you know, bring it together, or we could bring it separate. Either way, I mean, I'll
be
whatever the board wants.
I'll be honest. I'm gonna eventually, or whatever, want to approve these 2 positions, but I
Yeah.
also want to have a discussion about DAI coordinator as well. That's my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty.
Mrs. Wyman?
I said before, the DEI is very important, but I think we have, when we look at our entire student body, we have those that are economically disadvantaged. We have a very broad base of students that I'm not sure fit under the DEI categories that still require extra assistance in many different areas, many of which being after-school activities or extracurriculars. And so I want to be sure, if we're going down this road, we're looking at our entire student body. And that gets difficult. Well, it's not, I guess that's one reason I like this being built into every piece of it, because I don't believe there is one person that can satisfy the needs, and I never want one of our teachers or administrators to say, well, it's that person that's responsible for it. I think this needs to be a culture change. It needs to be throughout the entire district, and I get very nervous if because we all know of organizations, well, that person's in charge, that person's in charge, and I think that's a real slippery slope when you don't have everyone involved in the culture change.
I think what we're trying to imply is that it would be on every person, every staff, every administrator, and you know, like one of the examples that was cited in some of the community members' emails was the example of a director of technology. We know that technology is embedded into instruction in every part of the instructional day, and there's a director administrative position carved out to, you know, be the go-to person for technology. There's a go-to person for instruction. There's a go-to person for these different areas. But we're missing this go-to person, not just for harassment and complaints, but to be part of that culture change, and to be not just the initiator, but someone who again, I just keep going to the word go to, but the symbolic gesture and our commitment, I think, would be very impactful and powerful. And I, again, don't think it's I don't think that necessarily because we carve out a position that it would all fall on one person. I think it can be an and situation where we do have that person and every single person in the district is responsible in equity work.
I'm going to share some thoughts. I've been quiet here, trying to figure out how to pull my thoughts together. They're going to come across as very random, but to me, they're important as part of my learning and my belief that we always talk about we want to serve all students, and this is an opportunity to do that. We had a board self-evaluation discussion prior to this meeting, and one of the things we talked about was the comments that people wrote on those survey forms. And I pointed out that many of them dealt with equity. Topics such as the board addressing the needs of all students to ensure high levels of learning. Our curriculum development process ensures culturally relevant learning experiences for our students. Our board addresses the needs of all students to ensure high qualities or high levels of learning. Those were three that we didn't score very well. We didn't score ourselves very well on. And I think we have an opportunity here to address that. When I started reading the emails that were coming through last week in anticipation of our meeting on February 22nd, I really understood the points that people were making about only 1 of 10 people had anything remotely related to equity in their job descriptions. Dr. Davis and I had a couple of conversations about that. I told him I was prepared to table this unless we addressed that. And he did address that, but not in we talked today specifically about that, and of course there wasn't then time to get that out to the community. I don't think that embedding an equity statement into each of these job descriptions precludes us from hiring a DEI coordinator. Mm-hmm. And as I listened to the conversations tonight with my fellow board members and the people who spoke to us tonight and those who have written to us, not only for tonight but for other occasions, I think we really have to take a serious look at that. We have a changing demographic among our students in terms of racial makeup. We have 30% of students who do not identify as white, that's 70% who do. We have roughly 42% of our students who identify as students on free and reduced lunch. We have approximately, I believe it's 16%, Ms. Piran, you can correct me, who identify as students with special needs. And so we've become a more diverse student population overall. And many years ago when I was an administrator in the district working with the what we then called the English as a second language staff, now we call them the ESOL staff, I believe. Teachers would sometimes comment, our students are different than they were before. And that was true, but then the next question I would ask, or the comment I would make is, so what are we doing about that? They're not the same students of 5 or 10 years ago. So how are we changing to meet the needs of these students? And when a couple of comments were made about the hiring process for our superintendent in the spring of 2021, I recall 2 emphases. One was literacy, and the other one was equity. And we've done some things to move the efforts in terms of reading or literacy. There have been some staffing changes. There have been adoption of materials in terms of phonics and phonemic awareness, and a whole new approach in terms of embedding more concepts of the science of reading. But we haven't pushed the initiative as much in the equity area. We've talked about it, but I think the time is now for us to really move forward on that. And I don't have all the answers. I don't have the life experiences that many of the people who shared with us tonight. And perhaps what we need to do, or administration needs to do, is to reach out to some of the individuals who have the life experiences, who can provide information, examples of how students have been hurt. I've talked with a few parents, I haven't talked with many, but I've talked with a few parents who have children who represent black and brown children, and it's very painful to hear about what they put up with on a day-to-day basis that the rest of us haven't had to deal with in our life experience. So I know that in addition, the central office and the principals are looking at many positions across the district and looking where we can make reductions, where we need additions, and so on. And I think this conversation could possibly fit into that in terms of where can we reduce positions through attrition, and where do we need to add? And I would see that this one might be one where we need to add, just like we talked about adding a communication specialist to work with Mrs. Neiman because of the magnitude of all she deals with. But I don't see that. First of all, I do like the idea of making sure everybody has an equity statement in their job description, because it's too easy with whatever the topic would be to say, well, it's that person's job, it's not my job. And so I think it's important to embed these in here, but more than embedding them, they need to be held accountable. They need to be evaluated on where they are going with those and how we are serving all students, because if we really mean all means all, then we have to walk the talk on that, just not talk the talk. So I think we could still embed these, and at the same time, these equity statements, and still look at hiring a DEI coordinator. I don't know what that job description would look like, but I think we have some people in our community who have firsthand knowledge who could assist with some ideas. We also have, we've heard that there are districts smaller than we are, Neenah and Fond du Lac, who have coordinators to do this work. We need all of our kids. We're looking to make sure that all kids are college and career and community ready. That means all. So how do we ensure that? And then we have a strategic, part of the strategic plan now, the continuous improvement plan dealing with parent engagement. So I see those as all working together. So I know that was a long-winded and disjointed response, and I apologize for that, but those were some of the thoughts that have been going through my head as I've listened tonight, and also reflecting on the impassioned emails that we've received from so many people in the community. I would prefer that we vote on any of these reorg positions as a whole rather than piecemeal. I don't like piecemeal approaches when we're dealing with staffing. I'd like to look at the whole package. But I do think that, and I've changed my position on this. I wasn't sure coming into this meeting that a DEI coordinator was necessary, not because of embedding these statements into these job descriptions, but because of the situation, the financial situation we find ourselves in with the uncertainty in terms of what kind of funding we're going to get from the state. Which is not to say that this position would not be important, but I think we have to look at the whole picture. So with that, I'll let anyone else pick up the conversation from there. Dr. Davis.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on just from a community standpoint also. I believe that we have made some strides in our equity work over the last year and a half, specifically continuing our ICS for Equity work on our anti-bias training. That's been part of what we have for our onboarding for all of our staff. We all have work to do. We will always have work to do. This is just a continual, lifelong process as we're moving forward. But that's been baked into our professional development structures as we move forward, and as we're looking at our literacy, diversifying our literacy books, but being able to identify bias. So as we're looking at situations, I just want to make sure that's clear for the community, and that our teachers are working as hard as they can with the knowledge that they have, and always reflecting and and working to be better. We've instituted restorative practices. We passed policy last year to have restorative practices after our suspensions, when the restorative practice would be an appropriate application. We had training for all of our administrators over the summer to make sure that that process is in motion, and I just met with Director Kammerer to make sure that we're following up with our teams to make sure we learn how that process has gone and make sure we're continually improving that process. We've also made a significant change in our expulsions over the last year in our expulsion referrals, and that's been a dramatic decrease from what we've had for previous years. So just want to just make sure equity comes in a lot of different ways. I think we've made some significant progress over the last year and a half. I think that we have much more work to do. I have experience bringing in a director for equity in Shorewood, so I have that experience. I look forward, if that's something that the board wants us to pursue, I look forward to engaging with our staff members and with our community members who can give some insight into what that position should look like. So I've been certainly steeped in that work. So I just want to make sure that, again, this can be an and both as we're moving forward. If that's what the direction that the board wants to go, we will fully embrace that opportunity if that's what the board charges us with, and making sure that we all continue to grow, along with, if we feel having this position is an important position for us, that we move forward. But I just want to make sure that we're not dismissing the work that's been done up to this point. I know that wasn't anybody's intent, but I just want to be clear on just articulating those points as we're moving forward.
Thank you for sharing those. I didn't mean to imply we have done nothing.
Yeah.
But yes, there's more work to be done.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Anyone else?
And I don't know, I guess my intention from asking for this to be is simply because I can follow and back the proposal here by putting the equity statements in there. I think that's important. I just don't think it's fair to do it with the public not being able to see it. And I think, as other people have said, the equity position can still be on the table.
Sure.
It's not a no to it. This is simply how many versions have you been through with this one? 7, 8?
This would be number 8 or 9.
This is the next step.
Sure.
There's more to come. This is not a no, we're not going to do that. This is a moving things, this direction with the reorganization. So that was my intention, is just to be fair to the community that they see this. So I guess,
This is the logic.
And I'm on board with that, and I appreciate Dr. Herzog, your point about not piecemealing this, because I know that was kind of where I was headed. So thank you, board members, for helping me with this process. I just want to clarify exactly what we're voting on. So at any point, simply because we're talking about how the public hasn't seen this, and I don't want us to get some flack on not being transparent with that, we're voting on the positions and the titles. We don't get into the weeds about the bullet points, right? So we're not voting that these bullet points are set and never change. You could change them as the years go on, correct?
The way that the resolution reads, that's correct.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that was clear to the public, so we have added, or not we, the central administration staff, and it sounds like under the direction of Dr. Herzog, has added bullet points. But that is part of what you would do in your job description.
Those would be assignment details.
Yes.
Those are generally, those are assignment details.
So the board's responsibility is the positions and their titles.
Yeah, creation,
Yeah.
because they're new positions.
Yep.
Because we obviously want to make sure, we need to by policy make sure that if the title changes or if it's a
Yeah.
new position that we would do that.
And I was pretty sure of that. I just wanted to make sure that was clear to the public, because it sounds like we weren't being transparent by adding bullet points today, but that is not the case, because that is part of what a superintendent in a school district does, is reflect the job descriptions and fine tune what the district needs.
Yeah, and we can
without
certainly-
the board's approval.
Yeah, and we can certainly bring that back as a staff report at our next meeting. Whatever way you want us to do it,
Yeah.
we're more than willing. This is important work, and we just want to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction.
So can I call the question then? For
Yeah.
us to vote on tabling this to next week, Wednesday, to have the public see this, and then we can vote at that point?
Perfect.
Okay.
Herzog.
Aye.
Kearns.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Szilagyi.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Wyman.
Aye.
Motion
Motion carries.
All right, so we will be addressing this again next week, and making sure that the public is aware of those points and any other items you wish to include. I think it would be helpful, this is just me speaking, to list some of those efforts that have gone on the last year and a half, so that we don't lose sight of the fact that some things have been done, but we can certainly build on those, and we have much more work to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you to the community members who have reached out to us and been here today,
Absolutely.
that have helped us, so.
I appreciate your time and your passion and compassion. Thank you. Okay, so resolution number 11 would be next. So be it resolved that the Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education approve the new position of Director of Technology as filed with the Secretary to the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Would this make sense then, since we tabled the previous one, to move this one next Wednesday as well?
I think that's an option.
I feel better about that personally.
So then I will make another motion to table this to next week, Wednesday as well.
We need a second.
Second.
Good.
We
All
probably
right,
don't
is there
need
any
it.
further discussion on this one?
Can I, before we move off of just the organizational chart,
Sure.
new positions, is it of interest for the board to have me, if we're going to discuss a DEI director type of position, is it of interest to have a job description and where that would fall within the organizational chart and exactly like what that person would do, who they would report to, how much their budget would be, who they would supervise? Because, I mean, that to me, I think would be important information.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So that would be something that I would bake into then the whole org as the proposal. Okay.
Version 10?
Yeah. And as a follow-up to that,
It's all part of it. So it's-
I was wondering, is it something that sometimes is not a director position, but yeah, is baked in under one of these instead? I was wondering that as we sat here.
Could be anywhere.
All right.
Right? I think the lower it goes in the organization, the less influence they would have.
Okay.
Right? And so many times it's seen as a, well, I would say there's examples of all different types of levels.
Okay.
In my experience, I had that be part of the executive team because I felt like the authority needed to be like at the top of the organization if we're going to commit dollars and resources to this type of position. That's been my experience. So that would, I guess, if the board's interested in kind of where I think they would fit, that's what I would do, is then bring that back into the org chart.
And I think one thing along with that I'd be interested in, our administrators now, everyone in the exec level has goals, and I'm wondering what the goals would be that would show success in that position.
Sure.
Any more discussion? Did we vote on number 11? I'm sorry. I lost-
No, we gotta
made
we have to
the-
vote on
I didn't think
a
so.
motion and
All
a
right,
second,
thank
and
you.
we gotta vote on
All right.
tabling.
Thank you. Any further discussion on resolution, on tabling motion, resolution 11 to next week, Wednesday? All right, please call the roll.
Carnes.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Salachi.
Aye.
Ray.
Aye.
Wyman.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. All right, next on the agenda is request for future agenda items. Well, we've already defined two, so that's a start. Are there any other requests for future agenda? Mr. Carnes?
This just came up recently, so I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about it. But something that kind of came up, and I'd like to, maybe this goes to a committee, but when we have the snow days, that leaves the paraprofessional staff having to make up hours during that pay period, from what I'm told. And we just had a meeting, if it was last meeting or a couple before, where we talked about staff engagement and what we do to help our staff. From what I understand, we don't get less money for a snow day. We don't have less income coming in from the state or from taxpayers for that. Yet, we are, in some sense, not paying some of our lowest earning staff members who do an incredible amount of work and are incredibly important. So I guess I just wonder, and this is obviously policy-based, maybe there's a policy or maybe there's some things that we can look at, because I just think it's unfair for them to have a snow day and have a week to make up 7 hours or maybe more of time so that they can get paid without being unpaid. And I think that doesn't feel good for some of our lowest earning, yet sometimes our most important staff members that do so much work, that why are we saving money on the backs of people who we need? So I would love to look at, maybe that goes to a committee.
Yeah, I think facilities and finance would be a good place.
But I would like that
to go.
conversation to continue, because I don't think that doesn't feel good to me that we're saving money on those positions.
And again, I want to be clear, like, the district isn't saving, we're not looking to save money on the backs of our employees.
Correct.
Right? There's processes and historical policies in place of hourly workers being able to pay for the work, that they complete. So what we would need to do is, and we will, as part of, I would say, facilities and finance, then take a look at then all of our hourly employees across the city, because it wouldn't just be for paras.
Sure.
We'd look at all of our hourly employees, and we need to do an analysis of what that looks like. This year is a good example of that, because we've got multiple days and what the impact of that would be. And then we'd have to look at that just from a practice standpoint. So
if there was no snow days, they would have worked and gotten the money. So with snow days, then they're potentially not getting paid. So it's like, I would look at it from the avenue of, if we had no snow days, they would have worked and we would have paid them. And so I would like to see what we can do to make sure that they get their full pay. So.
Yes, so I would propose in facilities and finance,
That's
we
fine.
look at the entire conversation.
I
agree. Because there's.
It's more than just one position. I agree.
Yeah, more than just one position, and we have ways for our paras to be able to, earn that money. As we look at other opportunities. So
I think that's an opportunity to look at.
We can have a broader conversation about that. So I would say for facilities and finance, I assume Chris is probably the chair of that, because he's Chris. Chair.
Actually, it's Beth.
Is it Beth? All right, yeah, so yes, we can bring that to facilities and finance.
And we have experienced administrators, central office administrators in the room who have lived through this same question over time, so they probably have.
Well, we've talked before about,
wisdom.
and I know we can't converse about this, so let me just say one more thought. That was, we've talked about changing the way we've done things to do things the right way, and I just think this is an opportunity that maybe just because it's been done a certain way, maybe it can be revisited so that we can maybe do something right, if that's the way that the committee and the board decides. So that's all. I'll leave it.
All right, and I'll just
Thank you.
one final thought. I'm not suggesting we have to do things the way we've always done them.
I know.
But I think it's important to know what's transpired in the past to move forward. Any other requests for future agenda? Okay, how about announcements? Does anyone have an announcement tonight? Mrs. Wyman?
I wrote my announcement out to make sure that I got all my points across. This week, communications started to go out surrounding the Oshkosh Area School District Gala to benefit musical and fine arts at the Waters on May 6th. I have been involved in planning of the event since the beginning. My husband and I own the Waters, and to avoid any conflict of interest with both my business and my board responsibility, in full disclosure, I want the community to know that the Waters is donating the building rental, the AV equipment rental, and will be donating all of the bar proceeds to the fundraiser. This has always been the plan, and I'm sorry that it wasn't communicated before this time. So stay tuned for more great information. It's going to be a wonderful event for a great cause.
Thank you, Mrs. Wyman.
Thank you for doing that.
Any other announcements? All right, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the disciplinary data of specific persons under Chapter 19.85.
I would move to waive the reading of this.
Thank you very much, Mr.
I'll second.
I appreciate that. These all deal with expulsion recommendations for the public. There's been a motion to move the waiving of the reading of the 4 components of the executive session. Would you please call the roll?
Lee.
Aye.
Szilagyi.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Wyman.
Aye.
Garland.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Kearns.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So we've waived the reading of the 4 items. Now we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
I'm so sorry, I've got Liz as the second, but I didn't catch the first.
Carnes.
Szilagyi.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Wyman.
Aye.
Garland.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Kearns.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Motion, meeting is adjourned to executive session.
Motion carried and the meeting is over. Thank you very much.
So you're dedicated to comes into work.